Hello, my name is Malcolm Mace. I was put in Barnardo's at the age of 3 weeks old in 1963 in a place called Barkingside, Guildford, Essex. My first recollection of memory of being in Barnardo's is when I was put into the baby section called Oasis. It was a big old house back on the back of Cranbrook Road. In Barnardo's itself. Oasis was the baby section of all the children that came into Barnardo's. If you was a certain age, you would end up in there for a number of weeks. I recall when I first went there, I had whooping cough, so I was put in the Barnardo's hospital for a number of weeks before I went back into the nursery.
The hospital within the village?
The hospital in the village, that's because the village was a self-contained village with practically everything. We had our own, as I mentioned, hospital, our own dentist, our own Tufty club, our own library, school, church, hairdressers. We were self-contained, our own general stores as well.
Tennis court.
So you've got tennis court, swimming pool as well we had. So you can imagine home which...
Orchard.
Orchard as well, yes. I remember going picking apples as well. But no, we were self-contained and we had a wall all the way around the perimeter of the home itself. So of course, life was all in amongst this complex. I didn't know that life existed behind these walls until later on in life. Mm-hmm. So we were self-contained.
How many people lived with you in the cottage?
In one of the cottages, about 8 children were in the household, run by 2 members of staff, and then we had our own cook would come in to cook the food for us. Mm-hmm. And then they have every so often they would change the staff over and we'd get a night staff to come over to watch over us. Yes, it was an interesting time because. Some of the staff we would like, but some of the staff were not too good. We always had a favourite, and of course, having a favourite member of staff, at some point in your time there, they would sadly leave, and because you then have to get used to trusting another member of staff, which for me I found very hard, because obviously you trusted these member of staff, and over the years you got to know them really well, and they got to know you really well as well. Mm-hmm. I found it very hard to gain trust in someone else after particularly when you lost maybe a particular member of staff you particularly liked. Mm-hmm. I found it quite challenging at the time.
What about the other children? How did you get on with them?
Other children were treated like they were like brothers and sisters to me, really, because we were all there for the same reason, and we all got on really well. Occasionally that we'd have our ups and downs, there'd be fights, and but of course, like any old family, you would then settle the difference and then just get on with it. It was just that was life in those days. That's how it was.
When you were in the cottage, yeah. So you were in one cottage, say for example. What was your relationship with the children in the other cottages, for example? How many cottages were there?
On those, I think that one time there must have been at least 25, maybe more cottages. But I can't recall the exact number of cottages. But we made friends on the opposite greens to us, and yeah, it was quite funny because certain greens you went to, there was like little gangs of people, and you was from one green that you was from another, and then sometimes they used to basically push you around a bit, say, well, you're on what are you doing over this side, as if we was crossing boundaries, which you weren't, unless you were in the know. They wouldn't always like you. There were gangs. There was 2 gangs.
Which one were you in?
There was the Hum gang and I'm trying to remember the other gang. Trevor Daniels. I was in the Trevor Daniels gang. So we had our little. In fact, I think we built a camp in one of the sand pits of the time where we used to go to war with each other, which is it's quite vicious really considering. There's always a bit of a knuckle or two of the older boys. I was a lot younger at the time, but you all participated in throwing these earth mud bombs at each other, trying to hurt each other as much as you can. But it was all, at the end of the day, it was all a bit of fun.
So social life, holiday. I mean, how did that work?
Social life was good. I mean, I remember belonging to the Tufty Club, and I remember going to the Tufty Club when I was younger and watching old movies, old films at the Tufty Club. We even had in the old library. We had even a model train. We had model trains there and Scale Electric racetracks, which you can play with. I remember spending a few hours there, and obviously we had our own swimming pool as well, that's where I learned to swim. I actually fell in the pool, and then instead of them coming jumping in and saving me, they told me to kick my legs and kick me out, start swimming. And that's how I learned.
It was important to say that it was an outdoor swimming pool.
It was an outdoor swimming, and it was bloody cold as well.
Because the other children's home had an indoor swimming pool.
Yeah, that was Woodford home, wasn't it? The Woodford home had their own pool.
So sort of holidays, adventure trips and stuff.
Yeah, so holidays we used to go to. We always used to go to stay in either a church hall. I remember going to Ramsgate, staying in a church hall in Thanet, St Helens Church. For some reason, St Helens Church seems to ring a bell. It's funny enough because I work in a place called St Helens Place now, where I work now.
Right.
So St Helens was one of the churches we stayed in Ramsgate. We used to go to another place called Holland on Sea, which was quite funny because they mentioned the word Holland. I thought, we're going to Holland, we're going abroad. Because very disappointed when I realised that we weren't going abroad. But it was another coastal place we used to go to quite a bit. Also, we used to go up to Yorkshire, to a place called Ripon. Stayed in a big home there, which I always remember having an adventure playground attached to it, which I always remember going down this aerial runway, which I found fascinating, which is always,
So here's one. What would you say was the ethos of Barnardo, so to speak, if it had one, even with the staff or with the children?
I think with the staff, the discipline we had growing up, the rights to behave at a table, tidying up after yourself, first thing in the morning, making your bed, all those things which even today I do, was great. I mean, they learn manners, how to sit at a table, and even today when I see people come to my workplace, some people don't know the correct way of using the crockery at the table and cutlery at the table. Spoon and forks, you're using knife and forks and that. People, even today, Barnardo taught me all that. Barnardo taught me how to dress properly, how to do my tie properly, how to tie shoelaces up, and all those things. What later on in life we need to do. They taught me that.
Now, fostering. What was the situation with fostering?
I got fostered at the age of 13 to a religious couple who never had any children at all. They lived in Walthamstow, 180 Billet Road. I can always remember the name of the house. Albert, the name was Albert, and Thelma, Louise they were. The surname was Louise. And strange couple. Again, they were born again Christian. So of course, when I left Barnardo's, I thought, at least I'm going to go to church, not knowing that these people were serious church goers, and I had to go to church in the morning, in the afternoon, and the evening service, which I absolutely hated at the time. And and of course, I was. This is where the interesting part came. I first of all, Barnardo's sent me there on a weekend first, see how I fitted in with them. If I could perhaps be fostered by them. And it took at least I was going back and forth at least 18 months there before they said, they really like you, Malcolm. They would like to foster you, because I thought, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to be with a real family. But of course, little did I know that they didn't have any kids themselves, and sadly, they didn't really know how to look after a child, because there were many times that they didn't know how to cope. And I remember what was upsetting for me leaving Barnardo's, because Barnardo's, you can imagine, I had so much space there. Could do what I like there, run around, play football with my friends, and have lots of friends. If I couldn't just go out with one of my mates, I can go to another house and play with another lad. Where having that all taken away from you, and then go into into a house where I'm surrounded by four walls, and then had a tiny little garden, and wasn't able to go and play with my mates next door. It was quite upsetting for me, really, because I felt that I was imprisoned by this tiny little garden they had, and where I had so much space. I had acres of space in Barnardo's, where that was all taken away from me. And then a strict environment all the time with just these two couple people every day. And sadly, my fostering only lasted for about 8 weeks.
8 weeks?
Yeah.
Outside will be laughing.
It didn't go, and because I remember they must have realised that things weren't going too good.
Right.
With me, because I remember going to school in just off the Billet Road in Walthamstow, trying to blend in with trying to make new friends, and that time a lot happened. I wasn't taking. It really disturbed me, really, because I couldn't really fit in at this school, where before I had all my friends, I had a lot going for me. I was used to the teachers, and I found it too hard.
Yeah, is it because the friends were the same friends in Barnardo's?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you had that.
I lost all those friends, and although I was only a bus ride away, but I couldn't get on that bus to come back to Barnardo's, because in their way, my foster parents, they wanted me to start a new life. They thought they were doing the best for me, and I found it very I was completely lost, really.
Was you pleased when you returned?
I was very much pleased. In fact, it was a shock to them, because when I came back from school one day, there was all my bags packed in the hallway. So straight away I thought, are we going on holiday? Thinking that, we was going away on holiday somewhere. He said, no, you're going back to Barnardo's. And to their shock, when I was saying, oh, great. And that wasn't the answer they thought, oh.
That should be lovely.
I was really pleased I was going back home. I thought, oh, great. And because it didn't work out. They found it really hard to, and I remember being interviewed by my social worker. He said, well, why didn't you? I said, well, I don't know why. I tried to blend in. And I think one of the reasons was they bought, Albert, my foster parent, he worked as a hospital porter at Chingford Hospital. So I obviously don't think he had much. His wage wasn't very good, but I remember I had a scale electric track, which wasn't very big, but they bought me a couple of cars for it. And it must have cost them quite a bit of money for them, which was great, was good. But as I, within that 6 weeks, I got to know the neighbour next door's little boy. He had walkie-talkies, which I thought was amazing, plastic. So I swapped. We did a swap. And not my foster parents
went ballistic.
You imagine? I think that was the start of me, that they punished me for that, and then I realised things were going downhill.
Because you have that communal thing in Barnardo's, isn't it? It's very communal.
In Barnardo's, we could swap toys with everyone. We had something like an action man. I'll give it to Algie or whatever. We could do that in those days. But here, I thought I could do it with my friend, and that didn't go down well.
Just a quick aside. I cottoned on to this fostering when I was in Barnardo's, and I did not want to get fostered at all. I couldn't see the benefit. And when I was to visit my mum, it was like you just described. I was within these four walls. I didn't know anybody. I felt like I was in a prison.
Yeah.
And I used to look at the cars going by to see if anyone was going to come and collect me from Barnardo's to take me back. I didn't want to go. My mum actually tried to say, I want to look after myself. I was like, no, I'm staying here. I know where my bread is. But actually, in my report, they said that.
You can imagine having all that open space just taken away from you. It's just Yeah.
So while you were in Barnardo's, okay, did you experience any sort of like racism or anything like that?
Not so much racism.
Racism from the staff or racism from the kids?
No, I didn't. No, I experienced some bulliness from members of staff, which sometimes when we would have to we moved from one house to another house while our house parents went on holiday themselves. They used to move us around.
Oh, yeah.
I remember going into what house was it now? Because they've moved all the names of the houses around. I can't remember the house I went to, but their parents who were running it there, they were a nice piece of work.
Yeah.
They were a nice piece of work. Yeah.
Okay, so generally you didn't experience any racism?
No, other than that, no. I mean,
what about the children?
No, not at all. The children that
Was there even a concept of racism?
I don't recall. No.
So why?
I mean, most of the kids were even my colour, or we all blended in. We wasn't, I don't think racism was an issue then at that time.
Okay. Did you experience any prejudice from outsiders for being in care?
No, the only thing I was very cautious who I didn't when I went to school outside, but when I went to Wanstead, for instance, the school, high school, I never told my friends that I was in a home, that I was in a care. I was ashamed of it, that I was in a care care home. I don't know why, but I never told. And the embarrassing times used to be for me when I was at secondary school was when we used to have parents' evening.
Okay, yeah.
So because every time I had a parents' evening, the auntie who could probably slot in that time would be different. Be someone with ginger hair one moment, I said, oh, that's my mum. Next time, someone, it would be different. And because my mates used to say, well, why is it? And I said, I used to always make up a story each time. And there's only one mate who I sort of basically said, no, I live in the children's home. He said, oh, well, it must be great in the children's home. I said, well, I used to look at him and said, what do you mean it would be great in the children's home? He said, well, you must be able to do what you. I said, really? And so I took him to Barnardo's once. And it's a friend, I'm still in touch with this guy now. I haven't seen him for about 2 or 3 years now. But and he wandered around. And he thought, wow, he thought it's great. He thought, oh, this is fantastic. And I said, well, why do you think it's fantastic? He's got all this open space. You've got this and you've got that. You can do this. You can do that. I said, yeah, but we haven't got what you got. He said, well, what have I got? I said, well, you've got a parent. You've got someone who can give you a cuddle, someone who can talk to you, someone who, give you things. And he said, well, you haven't got parents. I said, no, that's why I'm in home. And he didn't realise that. He said, oh, right. That's hence why when you see me in parents' evening, I used to get all shy because I never know which auntie was going to come. But I was, even. And it took me a long time to open up to my teacher to tell me I was from the Barnardo's. Every time we had a different teacher. So and they used to sometimes say, "Oh, I hope you're not like that in front of your parents and things like that." And he used to say, "Well," I used to sometimes have a bit of a tear in my eye. And I said, "Well, what? Have we got parents?" And because when I used to say, "I'm actually living in an orphanage," their faces would change. Oh, sometimes you use that. Sometimes you use that as a lever. How do you feel now after having a go at me? To get extra pity, but
So when you were saying about the relationship you had with like the children, and you mentioned Valerie, for example.
Yes.
As
I mean, Valerie. I think Valerie was young. I mean, even the other girl. She went to I think she went to Ilford County High School.
She did, yeah.
And we knew she was obviously a bright cookie. She was going places, I think. But I looked up to Valerie because she knew a lot.
So overall, in the village, what aspects did you enjoy?
I enjoyed the fact that we were basically one great big family. We was all there for each other. I knew if, for instance, I always remember one story. I remember we we was lucky enough to go to various parties in there. And one of the trips I remember going to is I went ice skating at Stretton Ice Rink. And must have been about a minibus full, so it must have been about 12 of us, all on this ice rink. You know, all different coloured people, all different age and that. And I remember one of the younger lads was pushed by some white guy. And he said some remarks to this young lad.
Racist remark.
A racist remark, yeah. And before long, this young lad told the other lads, and this guy was surrounded by a load of black lads.
Just black or white?
Blacks and whites. We all, and he started to panic because he said, "Well, you pushed our little. We're a team. We're all one family here. Don't you want to pick on him? You pick on us all." And he sort of backed away. And I thought, well, you know, it was like a little mafia. You know, we all protected each other. Even when we went to secondary school, if you had your dinner money stolen from you, the older boys, you know, the Colton Barretts and, you know, people like that would be there for you, helping out, or the Leons, you know, or the Trevors, and, you know.
We went to Geary's, though.
We went to Geary's, went to Geary's Boys School, yeah.
So what aspects would you say you didn't enjoy in Barnardo's?
Sometimes the punishment. Sometimes not. I mean, I was lucky with Anne Scornforth. She was a very good house parent. She really looked after us, you know. But some of the male side of members, there was a bit. I didn't like the way.
First names. First names.
First names.
Yeah, only.
Brian.
Okay.
Sometimes the punishment there. And I'm trying to think the other.
What type of punishment?
A stick, a slipper. You know.
Oh, so like Uncle Brian, actually.
Yeah. No, there was another side to him as well.
What was there?
Yeah. We won't go into that.
Okay.
I remember trying to remember my parent, the house parent at the time. I swore, and my punishment was to go into the. Do you remember we had a larder room, which is obviously the coldest part of the house. Stand on the chair, just with my pajamas on, in there for a number of hours. It may have been for an hour or so, but it seemed like a lifetime.
Yeah,
at the time,
yeah.
You know, back in the days, that's one of my punishments for swearing.
I swore Mr. Hickman. I said you sod. So what did you say? I said, sword, He said, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
You washed my mouth out with soap.
Yeah, again, I remember, yeah. I'm trying to Saunders, that's the name.
That rings a bell.
Mr. and Mrs. Saunders, they were the nastiest piece of member staff in Barnardo's then. And they had a daughter called Rachel, who was very, very spoiled. Very spoiled. She had everything.
How did that make you feel when you saw, the house parents' children being treated
different to us? Yeah, we was jealous. They had Christmas time. You some see all the lots of presents they had, and we had hand-me-down presents, which was always disappointing sometimes.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
You recognise him, yeah?
Yeah. Is that Kendall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's on the seaside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, right. So, when did you leave, and what was life like when you left?
So, I left Barnardo's in 1981.
Okay.
And the reason why I left Barnardo's, I was lucky enough to go to Australia. I decided that this is the time for me to travel the world, and I went to Australia to work on a Barnardo's farm, which was in the middle of nowhere, a place called Telugan Vale, and a place called Scone in New South Wales.
Wow.
Which now I know the farm where I worked as back in the days is now an Arab horse stud farm.
Oh wow.
So yeah, to Lugenvale.
How long was you there for?
So I was there for 12 months. I did a farming course, agricultural farming course there for 12 months. Yeah.
Wow.
Which was.
How did you get onto that though?
So originally, George was going originally, and I think.
I can imagine George.
He being George, he had all the animals on the farm, but I was also a lover of animals as well. And this opportunity came to Barnardo's boy. And George turned it down, and I decided, well, I might go there. A bit of a challenge.
Wow.
And it was a great challenge. I'd never been in a plane before, so you can imagine my first time on the plane on a Boeing 747, flying all the way to Australia. It took almost like 28 hours to fly all the way there, stopping at Abu Dhabi at the time, then Bombay, and then I went from there to Hong Kong. I was in Hong Kong for 2 weeks. Because my social worker was from Hong Kong, and
what was her name?
Christina Fock.
I think she was mine too.
Yeah, she was quite a few people's at the time.
Yeah.
But she, at the time when I was over there, she had lost her father, passed away. So of course she was over arranging all the funeral arrangements and all that. So at the time, she said to me at the time there wasn't the cost any more money to stop over there. She said, would you like to come to Hong Kong and I can show you the island, which she did. And I had a fantastic trip over there, and you know, she showed me all Hong Kong Island and going on to the main China as well. Went to Kowloon, Causeway Bay. I can't remember going.
But on the farm itself, like you were there for a year. What happened at the end of that year?
So I got a diploma from farming. I could have gone to Tocal Agricultural College in Sydney, in Newcastle, but I was a bit homesick.
Newcastle, Australia.
In Newcastle, Australia, yeah. So I was a bit homesick because obviously I hadn't seen any of my mates for 12 months. You know, I was in the middle of, you can imagine where I was. I was with 12 other lads, Australian, all from Australia, all different parts of Australia. One lad was from Tasmania, so I mixed with them, but not. They weren't in Barnardo. They were in Barnardo because they were uncontrollable kids.
Right.
I was in Barnardo because obviously my mother at the time didn't want me, or she couldn't look after me at the time. So a lot of the other kids in Barnardo's in Australia, some of them were from well-to-do families.
Right.
They just put him in there because the kid was uncontrollable. They gave Barnardo's a fee. Just said, oh, he needs to go to like a sorting out school just because he was uncontrollable. Both parents are professional people. They probably thought, oh, we ain't got time to go after this little rat, bungman Barnardo's. Get a bit of discipline, which most of them were. But, you know, but I was there, the only one from the UK.
The original.
Yeah, which was interesting.
So when you came back,
so I came back.
What was it you did? What you've been doing for the last 45 years?
I came back from Australia, back to Barnardo's in Barkingside, and basically Barnardo said to me, right, okay, you're now 18, you need to go and get yourself a job. So I thought, wow, okay, this is a bit harsh now, go and get yourself a job.
Okay,
so, again, I started looking for a job, and luckily at the time, I happened to be in the village office. I was collecting mail from the village office, and I remember one of the secretaries there saying to me, "Oh, Malcolm, there's a job going up in the city." I said, "A job going up in the city?" He said, "Yes." I said, "There's a job going up in the city." He said, you may be interested in doing this job." I said, "Well, what is it?" He said, "Well, working as a kitchen porter in a livery company." I said, "Livery company? Well, that's all that." She said, "Oh, well, you need to go and check it out." So of course I thought, okay. I went for this interview up in the city, just off Bishopsgate, and I remember going up to this huge front door, beautiful black gate with all coat of arms on it, ringing this doorbell to be confronted by the butler. And
what was the livery company name?
The livery company's name was the Worship Company of the Leather Sellers.
What is a livery company?
The livery company is a part of the guild of the City of London. It's where all the guilds are, like the fishmongers, the leather sellers, merchant tailors, all the people who were in trade and leather sellers were all tradesmen who used to make leather garments, leather shoes.
Hundreds of years.
Hundreds of years. Yeah, it's a union of a group of people who are tradesmen who deal with leather, and the leather sellers happened to have started up in 1372. But going back to me going from my first day at the leather sellers hall, I remember going to the main gates, knocking on the door, and being approached by the butler of the day, a guy called William Hopley, who's no longer with us. He introduced me to the hall, and I was then interviewed by a gentleman called Captain Neil McKechnie, who was an ex-Navy officer at the time. And of course, coming straight back from Australia, I had a bit of an Australian accent, and of course, obviously, I was a lot darker than I was. So they obviously thought first of all they thought I was an Aborigine, which was funny, but I wasn't, of course. And I've been interviewed by the clerk of the day. I was telling him where I've been over the last year, and he said to me explained about what the leather sellers are all about. He said, we're looking for a person to work in the kitchens and maybe later on become as a trainee butler, if I was interested.
Can you go into that a bit? Can you go into a bit about the butler?
So, of course, I listened to what he was having to say. He said, would you be interested? And so straight away I said, well, yes. He said, when would you like to start? He said, when would you like to start? I said, I'll start today. He said, well, you can't start today, Malcolm. He said, well, I'll tell you what. He said, how about joining us the following week, which was the 1st of March 1982, which I started. And I remember going back there, and I started there, and I'm still at the same company today,
right.
As head butler.
So you've served many famous people, right?
Yeah, indeed, yes.
Like whom?
Like whom? Well, at the hall, we've had all types of people. We've had he's now the king, but it was Prince Charles at the time. I've served Her Majesty the Queen, the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Andrew, sadly to say.
Lady Di.
Diana was a member of the company. Princess Diana, she was. Michael Caine. I've looked after David Niven. Felicity Kendall, Peter Ustinov. There's so many, Peter. Andrew Lloyd Webber.
The great and the good.
Paul McCartney. There's so many people.
So looking back at
Hawkins.
Yeah. Okay. Looking back at Barnardo's. Yeah. How did that shape your idea or perception of family, and have you brought that in with your family? Do you have family or?
I have family. I'm married. I've been married for 32 years to my wife Amanda, with 2 siblings of Ella and Samuel. Ella's 27 and Samuel's 25. One thing I probably would say, probably most kids from Barnardo who left say this to you, is I lacked having love and attention. I found that very hard to show my affection sometimes, and also I think my kids would probably tell you now, I found it a bit hard to show my affection to my own kids, which I found that was the most hardest thing, and also to my wife, is showing that love all the time. I think I did my best to show it, but I found it quite difficult to do because we never had it in Barnardo, so that's the biggest thing I always missed in the home itself. I think and then also I mentioned earlier on that sometimes having that trust to a member of staff, it took a long time to trust somebody else. You know, each time we had new member of staff used to come into the household, it took a long time for me to gain trust with these people.
So that made it difficult.
It made it difficult,
on later.
Later, and also to open up to people.
Okay.
You know, that was the biggest thing, to open up. You know, sometimes we used to hold all our feelings in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but now I've learned to cope with it.
So overall, oh cool, okay. Oh. Okay.
Right. Probably the reason why I found out the reason why I was in Barnardo's was because sadly my.
When did you find out? Sorry. What age did you find out?
Quite late, and I read my file. It must have been around about 94, 95 when we was able when we was able to read our files. But obviously there was I had a lot clearer picture in my mind. The reason why I was put in there, but of course the reason why was my mother had another child before me, and then she had three more siblings after me. So of course times must have been tough in those days.
Same mother?
Different fathers. So my half brother is older than me. I'm 62, so he must be at least 65. His name was Michael.
Where was your mother from? Where was your father from?
I found that my mother was from East London. She's brought up in Custom House, around there. My dad, I just recently found out where my dad was from, because obviously my daughter gave me a DNA kit to do once for a Christmas present. My dad was from Dominica.
Okay.
Which I just recently come back from.
Okay.
After following my family roots.
Did you meet anyone in Dominica from family?
I did indeed. I mean, from after doing a DNA test, I met up with all my dad's side of the family, which I'm still in touch with now.
Wow. So at what age did that happen?
This happened only 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years. So I've waited 59 years of my life to find out exactly where I'm from. I always thought, for some reason, I thought perhaps I'm from South America, or but no, I wasn't from South America. I found out my father was from Dominica, which is a tiny little island in the Caribbean.
And your mother? What was your relationship with your mother?
I didn't have no relationship with my mother. I recall when I was about 6 or 7 going to my mother's house, trying to make conversation with her, find about my mum, about her and my dad, but she was too distant away from me. The gap was too wide. I also remember once when I was with my wife, before we got married, I remember seeing my mother in Forest Gate once. I recognised her, to try and make conversation with her. We couldn't make conversation with her.
East London, yeah, Forest Gate, East London.
Yeah. So yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you've not had contact with her since?
She passed away in 2010.
Oh, okay.
I found that out through Facebook. One of my siblings said to me, Malcolm Mason, who lived in Barnardo's, and I found out through that.
Wow. So on your father's side, did you only half brothers and sisters?
My father didn't. I found out 2 years ago that my father, he didn't even know he had a son. He died in 2016. They started doing DNA. You get samples where you can do your DNAs from I think 2018 or 19, when you can get all the results like you do today. So he died without not knowing that he had a son. Which is sad. But my father had a brother named Peter, who I'm regularly in touch with today.
Oh, good.
Who lives in the house where my dad used to live.
Wow.
in East Ham. So it's an interesting journey because through DNAs, my daughter she was able to find out lots of things about my family.
Which you didn't know.
Which I didn't know. I didn't know that my first cousin, my uncle Peter's son, lives 5 minutes away from where I live now. My first cousin's youngest daughter, my daughter knew already before I really knew that they were family.
Yeah.
So Ella knew Aisha, which is my cousin's youngest daughter. She's a year older than Ella, but Ella knew her before we even know that we were relatives.
Wow.
So it's been an interesting journey. I've been back to Dominica with 10 members of my family, met up with my aunts and uncles in Dominica last year, which was fantastic reunion. I've got uncles in Florida who I occasionally chat to on Zooms. So it's been an interesting journey. And they've opened up their arms to me as if I'm a long lost member of family. You can imagine it must have been a shock for them for me to say, after 59 years old, by the way, I'm your cousin. Because my first cousin Terry and his two sisters said, but Uncle Ellis, which is my dad's name, Ellis Andrew Joseph, because my name would have been Joseph, Malcolm Joseph, but Mace is my mother's name, so my grandmother's name.
Right.
So yeah.
But that's interesting in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. So they've always said, Peter, my Uncle Peter said, Malcolm, if my brother had known he had a son, there would be no way you would have been put in Barnardo's. The story would be a complete different story.
Did he live in the UK all the time, or did he go back to Dominica?
My dad lived in he was the first to come over. He came over in 1957 on the Windrush. He came to Forest Gate. He worked in there was a sweet factory on Romford Road, where he must have met my mother. Obviously must have had a one-night stand. My mother fell pregnant. Mother found out there was a black child because the other child she had, Michael, was white. Because obviously back in the days in '63, to have a black child was a no-no. So she knew my grandmother heard of an orphanage in Barkingside. We're taking him up, we're taking down there, and we're just dumping there, and that was it.
Wow.
So that's.
And how old was you precisely? Was it
about 3 weeks old.
So how long?
3 weeks old.
3 weeks.
Yeah. So yeah. So yeah. So must have been tough on my mother to do that, but she had another sibling to look after.
And that sibling, you know?
I met him once.
Right.
Peter. But
yeah.
I couldn't. If he walked past me now, I probably wouldn't recognise him. I don't know if he's still alive now.
So I suppose in a way.
But I mean, I do occasionally see things pop up on Facebook from the Mace side of the family, from my mother's.
Yeah.
So my half sister's named Donna Mace.
Right.
And she comes up a few times, but she looks like me, and But when I see my cousins now, from my dad's side, they all look like my kids. Terry's youngest daughter, Aisha, she looks like Ella.
Right.
And my other cousin, Sharon, her two boys got Andrew and Jordan. Andrew looks like Ella, and Jordan looks like Samuel.
Right.
Facial, it's amazing. It really is,
Okay, so is there any last words you'd like to say in regards to being a Barnardo boy?
I've got lifelong friends from Barnardo's. We all been there, we've all been through it together. But I mean, some of my friends probably won't have good stories to say about Barnardo's. But from the time I had Barnardo, they were mainly happy times. I owe a lot to Barnardo's. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Malcolm.
Well,
thank you for sharing that.